Open the cabinet where you keep your prepping gear right now. Look at what you spent the most money on, the tactical pack, the freeze-dried buckets, the gadget with 9 functions you have used exactly once. Now look at what is missing. Because the 12 items that will actually keep you alive are not the expensive ones, they are the boring ones, the generic ones, the ones on a bottom shelf for under $2 each. And there is one of them, a single item at Aldi for under $1, that 90% of preppers walk right past. I am going to show you all 12. The generic supplies I stock deep and never talk about with other preppers. Not because they are secret, because they are so cheap that admitting you rely on them feels like admitting the expensive gear was a waste. It was. Welcome to the Survival Research. If this is your first time here, take a second and subscribe. This is where we dig up what the preparedness industry would rather keep buried under a $200 price tag. Let me start with the one everyone underestimates. Item 1. Calcium hypochlorite, pool shock, the white granules from the pool aisle. A 1-pound bag costs between $7 and $12, and it will disinfect around 10,000 gallons of water. Unlike liquid bleach, which fades in 6 to 12 months, pool shock stored cool and dry lasts almost indefinitely, 10 years or more. The industry sells you a $500 gravity filter with cartridges that clog and expire in hopes you never notice the $10 bag that outlasts it by a decade. Now, item 2, because most channels get this dangerously wrong. They tell you pool shock alone makes water safe. It does not. Chlorine kills bacteria and viruses. It struggles against heavy sediment and certain parasites. So item 2 is so plain nobody films a video about it. Coffee filters, bandanas, any tight woven cloth. You clarify the water first, then you disinfect. Pre-filtering is the step gadget sellers skip because there's no profit in a 50-cent coffee filter. Cloudy water eats your chlorine before it ever reaches the germs. A 10-cent filter is what makes the $10 bag actually work. That is the whole game with these supplies. Cheap, plain, and useless, only if you never learned how they fit together. Item 3. Petroleum jelly and cotton balls. A bag of cotton balls and a tub of jelly from the dollar store makes over 100 fire starters for about $2. A small pack of commercial fire starters runs $7 to $20. Each saturated cotton ball, fluffed open, burns with a strong flame for over 5 full minutes, enough to dry damp tinder and pull a fire from wet wood. The jelly does not burn on its own. The cotton wicks it like a candle wick pulls wax. That is the science the $10 fire cube hides from you. Item 4. Contractor grade trash bags, 3 mil thick, not the thin kitchen kind. During the Texas freeze of 2021, people taped these over broken windows and cut their heat loss dramatically. One 3 mil bag becomes a poncho, a ground sheet, a rain catcher, a window seal, a waist liner. Buy the clear ones. You can see the contents, and clear plastic can double as a solar water warmer in the sun. Item 5. Duct tape. I will not insult you by explaining duct tape. I will only say most preppers buy 1 roll. Buy 4. It patches a torn tarp, seals a drafty window, splints a broken pole, and becomes cordage when you have nothing else. Item 6. Heavy-duty aluminum foil. You cook with it by sealing food in double-layer packets and burying them in coals. You signal with it. You reflect heat back into a cold room with it. You shape a windscreen for a stove with it. Item 7. Unscented household bleach, kept fresh and rotated. Not for the long haul, because it expires. For the first year of a crisis, before your pool shock takes over. Bleach sanitizes surfaces too, which turns life or death when sanitation fails and disease begins to spread. Item 8. Ordinary lighters. The cheap disposable kind, bought in bulk. Preppers obsess over ferro rods and flint. A ferro rod is a fine skill backup. But a $2 lighter makes fire in 3 seconds while you're cold, shaking, and cannot feel your fingers. Buy the skill and the shortcut. Store both. Item 9. Baking soda. At Aldi, a box is 99 cents. It cleans, it deodorizes, it eases certain ailments, it smothers a grease fire, it stretches your toothpaste supply. 1 box has more uses than a whole shelf of single-purpose products, and it costs less than a candy bar. Item 10. Rubbing alcohol and basic first aid consumables. Not a $400 tactical trauma kit you have never opened and could not use under stress. Gauze, tape, alcohol, painkillers, antibiotic ointment, the boring supplies that treat the injuries you will actually get. Item 11. Candles. 50 tea lights for around $3. Light, a little heat, and something the manuals almost never list. Morale. 1 flame in a dark house after 3 days without power does something for the mind no spec sheet can measure. And now, item 12. The one at Aldi you will walk right past. Salt, iodized table salt, 89 cents a box. Salt never expires. Not in 10 years, not in 100. It is a mineral, and minerals do not spoil. Before refrigeration, salt was how humanity preserved every scrap of meat and fish it could not eat that day. It preserves food. It It replaces the electrolytes you lose through sweat and sickness. It becomes a wound wash in solution. Your body cannot manufacture it and cannot last long without it. And it sits at Aldi under $1, while preppers 3 aisles over argue about which $400 filter is best. Here is the pattern under all 12. Everyone solves a survival problem the industry would rather solve for you at 50 times the cost. Water, fire, shelter, sanitation, food, light, medicine. None of it requires a specialist. All of it has been priced and packaged to make you feel that it does. Let me be clear about the limits, because that honesty is the whole point of this channel. These items are a foundation. They are not the entire house. Pool shock does not replace learning to handle it safely. Cheap first aid does not replace a doctor or real trauma training. Salt does not replace a balanced long-term food store. What these 12 replace is the illusion that safety has to be expensive. It does not. It never did. The expensive gear was always optional. These 12 are not. And here is the part the industry will never put in an ad. The people who came through the worst blackouts, the storms, the long grid failures, almost never credit the expensive gadget. They credit the boring drawer, the salt, the bleach, the bags, the lighter that worked. Preparedness was never about the gear that photographs well. It was about the plain supplies you understood well enough to actually use when your hands were shaking. So here is the choice in front of you. You can keep buying the shiny thing with 9 functions and 1 real use, or you can spend under $30, walk out with 12 items covering water, fire, shelter, sanitation, food, and light, and build a foundation that actually holds. The preparedness industry is counting on you choosing the shiny thing. Prove them wrong. If this changed how you see that cabinet, subscribe and share it with someone still overpaying for safety. The next research goes deeper, and what it uncovers costs even less than a box of salt.